Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to show you my method for making great looking coal loads using Arizona rock and mineral coal. The car we'll be using today is a Proto 2000 HO scale hopper, but this method will work for any scale or model. We'll be using Arizona rock and minerals medium grade coal. It's great for HO scale and a little bit coarser. You can also use fine in HO and get really good results. To begin the process, I use a digital caliper to carefully measure the inside dimensions of the car. I'll then use the dimensions to make a cardstock template to size the load correctly. Once the template is cut, I'll use an X-Acto knife as a handle and test fit it into the car to make sure it seats properly. To form the base of the load, I use ordinary floral foam as it is inexpensive, easy to find, and very easy to shape. I used an old coping saw I had lying around to make the bigger cuts and rough out a blank for the load. For the next step, I use the cardstock template and an X-Acto knife to make the final cuts for the load. I always err to the side of making the load a bit larger, as you can always trim away paper-thin slices to make it fit perfectly. After a couple of test fits, I got the foam shaped down to the correct size. You want it to fit snugly into the car without any gaps, but you don't want it to be so snug you have to force it in. Now that the blank's sized correctly, we use an X-Acto knife to sculpt it into the final shape we want. It's often a good idea to use reference pictures in this step to get exactly the shape you want. If you model the modern era, you'll probably want to make a load that's a bit more uniform to represent coal that's been loaded by a dump loader. Since this load is going into a transition era car, I'll introduce some subtle undulations in the foam to represent a car that's been loaded by a tipple. Now for the fun part. I apply a very liberal coat of black acrylic craft paint to the foam. You can really slap this on as much as you want because the foam tends to soak it up. I apply the paint to the bottom of the foam as well to seal it and keep it from shedding tiny bits over time. With the paint still wet, I spoon the Arizona rock and mineral coal on the top of the load to get it to stick into the wet paint. This gives us a base coat with a little bit of tooth for a final coat to dig into. Be careful to keep the coal off the sides of the load as it can scratch the paint on the insides of the car. I'll allow this coat to dry for about 3 hours. Once the base coat dries, I shake off the excess and clear my workspace for the final coat. To put the finishing touches on the load, I spoon a few more heaps of coal onto the base layer and work it around with a soft bristled brush until I'm happy with the shape. One of my favorite things about this method is that each load you make will have its own variations and be unique. To seal everything, I used diluted white glue with a few drops of dish soap in it. Take your time with this step and be careful not to disturb the loose coal. I apply the glue with a medicine dropper to make sure the entire load is saturated. I use a small stiff bristle brush to pop any glue bubbles that might come up and replace any coal that's been displaced. Once this step is done, you can let your load dry overnight. And here is our finished product. I was very happy with the Arizona Rock and Mineral coal I used for this project. It has a great color and sparkle for model coal loads. I hope this video has given you some ideas you can use for your own layout. Thanks for watching.